Good afternoon and welcome to Sumter School District Board of Trustees Policy Meeting. It is now 6 p.m. We will start with a meditative thought followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good afternoon again. This meeting is held in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. The news media has been notified and a copy of the agenda has been made available to the public. All persons wishing to attend the virtual meeting may do so via YouTube, Sumter School District Board Meetings, and Sumter School District's Facebook page. Due to COVID-19 and in compliance with recent public health orders, no members from the public will be able to attend the meeting in person. The mission of Sumter School District is to equip students to be responsible, successful, and productive citizens in a global society. Vision: Sumter School District develops and cultivates competitive students who embrace diversity, act responsibly, and contribute positively to society. This afternoon, we have myself, Brian Austin, Chairman of the Policy Committee, Reverend Darrell F. McGaney, Mrs. Cheryl Ray, Dr. Gloria R. Lee, our Superintendent, Dr. Penelope E. Martin Knox, and Ms. Amy M. Hanson, our Administrative Manager. And Ms. Hanson, happy belated Administrative Professionals Day. And if I may, so at this time, wish our board chair, I know she's probably watching right now, a happy birthday. And we will get started with the meeting. Once again, welcome to this policy meeting. And we will move to item 2, the agenda. If there's no objections to the agenda, it will stand approved. Is there any objection? The agenda stands approved. At this time, we're down to item 3, executive session. Is there a motion to enter into executive session?
Motion for us to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussion regarding the development of security personnel and devices.
Second.
The motion has been made and there's a second. Any discussion? If not, we will take a vote to enter into executive session.
You do that by hand, just make sure you repeat the motion.
Okay. The motion is to enter into executive session for the discussion regarding the development of security personnel or devices. And will you please vote with a show of hands? The vote is unanimous, and we will enter into executive session. I do not know how long we will be in executive session, but I can promise you that we will try to make it as brief as possible. But if you choose not to stay with us during the duration of the executive session until we're back in open session, please follow us using the social media platforms that we're utilizing to stream tonight's policy meeting. If not, we will see you on Monday night at our regular scheduled board meeting. Upon consensus, the policy committee returns to open session. At this time, we'll move down to item 5, the review of policies and possible amendments. The first one on the agenda is 5.1, review of SCASBA recommendations, ACE, service animals, GBGAA, service animal staff, IMG, animals in schools, and JLCDD, service animal students. The review of SCASBA recommendations was to remove the language regarding emotional support animals, and that's the only changes to those policies. Moving on to 5.2, review of sample policy ACA and ACAR equity. It is this committee's understanding that the administration and staff is actively working on the work regarding equity in the district, and we as a committee look forward to continued discussion of it and to work with you all to develop this policy. 5.3, review of policy BDE and BDE-R board committees. The policy committee will work closely with the administration and with members of the full board regarding board committees and the policies regarding board committees moving forward. 5.4, the review of policy JCA, assignment of students to schools. This is a board function, and the policy committee will have more discussion of this moving forward in one of our next scheduled policy committee meetings, as well as have conversation with our full board members regarding this policy and practices. 5.5, review policy KF, community use of school facilities, and I'm going to turn it over to our superintendent and staff for discussion.
So thank you, Chairman Austin. The policy that you've referenced is one that we've been working on for a little bit now. And we made some recommendations and some adjustments after we've researched other school districts and looked at our policy to make sure that it is up to date and relevant. And so there are a few adjustments that we'd like to bring forward for your consideration. If you look at the items that are in green, I believe they're in green for you. Mr. Myers and his team have worked diligently to ensure that this policy is not only aligned with South Carolina's Department of Education recommendations, but just to make sure that we are still focused on being community-oriented and serving and supporting our community members. The recommendation, the first bullet that you may see, I do believe it's on page 2 of 4. The use of school facilities for functions outside of the educational realm are not permitted to include weddings, family reunions, funerals, memorial services, etc. This was a recommendation that we had brought forward, and after continued discussion, we'd like to make further recommendations to this by excluding funerals and memorial services from this list. We initially included that, but we would like to have funerals and memorial services removed from this list of activities. We'd also like to include parties of any kind, as opposed to the funerals and the memorials. What we'd like to continue to utilize are our facilities for funerals and memorial services for those who are former or current students and or employees of the district. And then we would include the language, because our policy did not include the language that the families or the persons requesting to use the facilities would be responsible for all costs associated with needed personnel and the maintenance of the facility. Mr. Myers again has done the work and has looked at the form that accompanies this policy to ensure that it is adequately aligned and it is not confusing to those who are completing it. And then the final statement is that the request will be approved at the discretion of the superintendent and or his or her designee. That's the other language we'd like to add. And discretion needs to be updated and modified.
Yeah, there are a couple typos in there. What?
And so those are the components that we'd like to adjust. And if we go further down the page, the next to the last major category or major bullet is by making application for use of school property, the organization or association using the facility agrees to have the appropriate insurance and to be responsible for any accidents, losses, or injuries either to property or persons, and to hold the district harmless in such events, etc., etc. The only component that we've added is the language that's in green, because there were no documents that included the need for insurance. However, we informed individuals who requested to use the facilities. We did inform them verbally, but I believe in the spirit of transparency that we continue to use the language so that everyone knows that we are adhering to our policy and our practice. If you go further down to page 3 and look at the fourth major bullet, there has been just an addition of language. The district prohibits the following activities. If you look at the third sub-bullet, the use of tobacco products, and we've included the language of e-cigarettes, which would include vaping or any of those tools that are now out in our communities. E-cigarettes is the major category, which would include the vaping materials, but because trends and patterns change over time, we just wanted to make sure that we use a broader category to designate those items that are banned or prohibited from the use on our facilities. And moving down to the next major bullet, this is included or updated language. In the event of inclement weather or early closures, school facilities will not be available. So that is added language that we are recommending, because what happens is if we have school closure or the facilities are not available, we are actually putting our staff who are going to provide support for those events, taking them away if it's a holiday or if it's inclement weather, we're putting them in harm's way for them to have to make way to the school or the facility that is requested for use. And then the final recommendation is just a slight update, as opposed to the document being called Sumter County School District. We have stricken the county to include the fact that we are one school district, we are Sumter School District. So that is the recommendation of the committee. Mr. Myers, is there anything that I may have omitted from the review of this document? Can't find that unmute button. Is there anything that I may have missed? I don't think he can hear me. Are we muted? We are. I apologize, Mr. Myers. I thought you were having difficulty with toggling through your keys, but I see it's Ms. Hanson. I was just asking, was there anything? If we were muted here, he can't hear me, but they can still hear me on the mic. I just want to make sure our viewers were able to hear me. Was there anything? Never mind, Mr. Myers. I don't think there's anything that I missed. We were muted. I apologize. This concludes the recommendations from the facilities policy and facilities use.
Is there any questions or discussion regarding the recommendations from the superintendent and staff?
No questions.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Marnox, and thank you, Mr. Myers. We're now down to 5.6, review of policy KLGA, school resource officers. Once again, it's our understanding that the administration and staff are diligently working with our stakeholders and with the community regarding the policy regarding school resource officers, and we look forward to continued discussion and to any updates or adjustments as you see fit moving forward. We're down to item 6, steps moving forward. 6.1 is policies for further discussion by a policy committee. As previously mentioned, those policies include policy ACA and ACAR, equity policy, policy JCA, assignment of students to schools, and policy KLGA, school resource officers. Is there anything that I may have omitted?
No, sir.
Okay. 6.2, policies to be presented for board approval consideration. And that would include the updates to the SCASPA recommendations regarding policy ACA, service animals, GB, GAA, service animal staff, IMG, animals in schools, and JLCDD, service animal students, as well as policy BDE and BDE-R, board committees, and policy KF, community use of school facilities. Is there anything that I may have omitted regarding those policies?
Covered it all, sir.
And our recommendation to the full board regarding policy BDE and BDE-R board committees is the policy committee recommends the optimization of the Citizens Advisory Committee and creation of subcommittees. Is that consensus of this body?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hearing nothing else for steps moving forward, we're down to item 7, the consent agenda. Hopefully we've all had a chance to review those minutes, and without objection, those minutes will stand approved. Is there any discussion or objections to those?
None.
Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. We're down to item 8, the closing of the meeting. Thank you again to our Sumter School District community. Thank you to Dr. Martin Knox and our dedicated staff for your diligence in working to make sure our policies are updated and making sure our community is engaged and informed of the policy committee meeting this afternoon. And hearing nothing else, thank you for joining us. We look forward to you joining us again for another policy committee meeting. If not, we will see you Monday for our work session with some school district board of trustees. At this time, we're down to item 8.2, adjournment, and this meeting is now adjourned at 8:13 p.m.